The Travel and Tourism Organization, the Human Context, Learning Module 2, Chapter 4, Lesson 1. After studying this chapter, students should be able to define and explain the importance of human resources to an organization, explain the employment and working conditions in tourism, explain the purpose of a human resource audit, describe what a human resource gap is, explain what a human resource audit contains and what it can be used for, describe human resource benchmarking, explain what a critical success factor is and how human resources can be critical success factors, define culture, explain its determinants and why it is important, explain the components of the cultural web and the nature of paradigms, describe two typologies of cultural types within an organization. Human resources are employees. They are the key factor in delivering successful tourism products. They represent a more intense relationship with customers than in most industries. Nearly 1 in every 10 jobs is related to travel and tourism. Some characteristics of travel and tourism employments include a large proportion of female employees, a large proportion of young employees, a large number of part-time and seasonal workers, high staff turnover rates, recruitment difficulties, poor levels of training, and finally, low pay. The key management challenge is to recruit and retain highly motivated employees. There are several options to a manager for doing this. One is job enlargement. This involves increasing the variety of tasks a specific job is responsible for. Job rotation. Have employees rotate jobs amongst themselves in order to increase teamwork, enhance an employee's knowledge and skills, and spread out unpopular tasks across employees. Job enrichment. This gives employees more freedom and empowerment to make decisions. Job sharing. One job is shared among 2 or more employees, thereby sharing burdens and responsibilities. Another important aspect of human resource management in travel and tourism is the guest-employee encounter. This involves managing moments of truth. These occur when the customer has direct interaction with the travel and tourism organization, and it applies throughout several aspects of the tourism system. Moments of truth are not all equal in importance to customers. That is, a negative experience at one moment of truth may have a much smaller impact in the traveler's overall experience than a negative experience at another moment of truth. The figure below describes the process of these moments of truth as they relate to the tourist experience. As we look at the bottom, we show this process of a travel experience, starting from the traveler generating region, travelers depart to the tourist destination region, and return at the end of their trip. On the left, we see the importance of a particular moment of truth. Within the figure are several moments of truth that might be experienced by a traveler going to a destination, starting from the tourist board, where information may be obtained. This is suggested by this figure as having a medium importance on the traveler experience. As we move through the process, we see the traveler seeing a travel agent, having experience through the airline, through check-in to customs, finally the hotel and the tour operator. We see that the most important moments of truth for the customer's experience in this example is the travel agent, the airline flight, and experience with the hotel and the tour operator. Moments of truth related to airline check-in, airport shops, and customs, though important, are slightly less important than the other experiences just mentioned. Another important aspect of human resource management is the human resource audit. This is an investigation into the size, skills, structure, and all other issues regarding those employed by the travel and tourism organization. Its purpose is to determine the human resources in the organization and whether they are capable of implementing the proposed strategy, and to identify human resource gaps. Components of a human resource audit are the number of employees, employee costs, organizational structure and the position of employees, recruitment and selection procedures and effectiveness, quality and effectiveness of training and development programs, the level of employee motivation and morale, the relationship between management and employees, internal and external networks employees have developed, and the effectiveness of existing human resource policies and control procedures. All of these components are an important part of the auditing of a human resource function. The human resource gap is an important consideration for human resource management. The human resource characteristic necessary for the proposed strategy minus the current state of the human resource characteristic makes up that gap. More simply, the gap is the difference between what is required in human resources and what the organization has. That is, skills gaps. Gaps may be closed through a number of methods: the retirement of employees, the retraining of employees, the redeployment of employees into other areas, redundancy, or better said, the elimination of redundancy across jobs, and the recruitment of specific employees with specific skills. Important issues and outcomes for a human resource audit. One important issue is measurement. Some aspects of an audit are more quantifiable than others. For example, the number of employees, employee costs, skills shortages and surpluses, and absences. Another important aspect of a human resource audit is human resource benchmarking. This is a tool for comparing a feature, for example, the components of a human resource audit, of one organization with the same feature of another. This is good for comparing your travel and tourism organization with the leading organizations in the industry, that is, identifying industry's best practices. And this is also good for comparing one industry with another. Identifying human resources as critical success factors. The human resource audit may also be used to identify those factors in the organization that are critical to the success of the organization. Reasons for the success of superior performers in an organization would be important in identifying a critical success factor. This is often in reference to specific employees or groups of employees, such as boards of directors, research personnel, and operations personnel, such as tour operators. If such an employee is lost to the company, your organization must be prepared to effectively replace them. Organizational culture. This is the set of beliefs, customs, practices, and ways of thinking that individuals in the organization have come to share through being and working together. The feel or character of an organization. All organizations have culture that can have a significant effect on organizational performance. Tourism managers must understand the culture of their organization and its effect on performance, the nature of the activities in the business, the nature of the interpersonal relationships that develop within that business, the style of management, the national or regional character of the areas in which the organization's activities are located, the structure of the organization, that is, its height and width, and its dependency on the dependency of the organization on technology and the types of technology employed. One aspect of the organizational culture is power distance, that is, how removed are subordinates from superiors in terms of a social distance. Why is culture important in an organization? Basically, it affects all aspects of the organization, such as employee motivation, the attractiveness of the organization as an employer, and therefore the rate of staff turnover, employee morale, productivity and efficiency, the quality of work, the nature of employee and organizational relationships, attitudes of employees in the workplace, and innovation and creativity. All of these are affected by the overriding culture within an organization. The cultural web is a way of making sense of an organization's culture. It is based on the paradigm of the organization, that is, the worldview of that organization, and based on the assumptions and beliefs of the people within that organization. The paradigm of the organization is influenced by a number of things: stories that people within the organization talk about amongst each other and to new recruits and employees, routines and rituals that are in place in the organization, both formal and informal, symbols that reflect something in the organization, such as achievement, responsibility, are often reflected by who has the corner office. Structure of an organization that reflects formal and informal relationships among different levels of employees. Control systems, or how activities within the organization are controlled. And finally, power structures, or what parts of the organization wield the most power and influence. All of these influence that worldview of the organization. There are several typologies that describe the nature of different kinds of cultures within organizations. Two typologies are specifically described by your textbook. One is Handy's culture types. Power cultures are those dominated by a powerful individual or subgroup. Role cultures is where everyone has a role, specific procedures in place in the organization. These cultures are very hierarchical. Task cultures. These are found in organizations with non-repetitive activities, those organizations that participate in special projects, for example. Person cultures exist for the benefit of the members of the organizations. They're rare in commercial businesses. Another type of cultural typology was put forth by Miles and Snow. Defenders. These organizations seek a competitive advantage in terms of a niche market through cost reduction and specialization, and their role is then to defend that niche. Prospectors develop and introduce products to the marketplace. These tend to be highly entrepreneurial organizations. Analyzers are followers and very conservative. They focus on market penetration and tend to evaluate the kinds of strategies that already work. Reactors are similar to analyzers in that they follow rather than imitate. They are less conservative than analyzers in that they react impulsively, often without careful evaluation of a situation that will lead to a specifically determined strategy.